we hear the sad news of the passing of legends. Today, the world says goodbye to remarkable souls who left their mark on history, hearts, and homes. In this video, we take a moment to remember them, to honor their legacy, their laughter, their love, and their light. Join us as we pay tribute to those we lost and celebrate the unforgettable lives they lived.
On July 8, 2025, the world of baseball lost a fierce competitor, a larger-than-life personality, and a true champion. Bobby Jenks, the hard-throwing reliever who helped lead the Chicago White Sox to their historic 2005 World Series title, passed away at the age of 44. His death leaves a deep void in the hearts of teammates, fans, and those inspired by his resilience both on and off the field. Born on March 14, 1981, in Mission Hills, California, Bobby Jenks' path to Major League Baseball was anything but conventional. Labeled a troubled teen, he bounced through schools, battled personal adversity, and even found himself out of organized baseball for a time. But baseball, like life, sometimes makes room for comebacks. And Bobby Jenks was a comeback story, waiting to be written. Drafted by the Anaheim Angels in 2000, Jenks possessed a blistering fastball that regularly touched triple digits. But injuries and setbacks stalled his early career. It wasn't until the Chicago White Sox claimed him off waivers in 2004 that his potential finally met opportunity. And in 2005, he seized that opportunity with force. Jenks burst onto the scene as a rookie closer for a White Sox team hungry for history. Towering at 6 feet 4 inches with a commanding mound presence, he became the bullpen's anchor during one of the franchise's most magical seasons. In the 2005 postseason, Jenks was electric. He recorded 4 saves, including 2 in the World Series, helping the White Sox sweep the Houston Astros and capture their first championship in 88 years. The image of Jenks pumping his fist after striking out the final batter became an iconic moment, not just for Chicago fans, but for baseball lovers everywhere. Over the next several seasons, Jenks became a 2-time All-Star, notching over 100 career saves and earning respect as one of the most dominant closers of his era. His size, power, and swagger made him a fan favorite. But behind the flame-throwing arm was a man battling demons. After leaving the White Sox, Jenks signed with the Boston Red Sox in 2011. Unfortunately, a series of back surgeries and complications lead not only to the end of his career but also a near-death experience. Jenks later revealed that a botched spinal surgery left him with spinal fluid leaking into his body. He fought through intense pain, depression, and addiction during his post-playing days. But once again, he fought back. In the years that followed, Bobby Jenks dedicated himself to recovery, personal growth, and family. He began mentoring young pitchers, coaching high school baseball, and sharing his story to inspire others going through darkness. His journey, marked by both triumph and struggle, became a symbol of redemption. News of his passing struck a chord across the baseball community. Ozzie Gillen, his 2005 manager, said, "Bobby was a warrior. What he gave us in 2005 can never be forgotten. He had the heart of a lion and a soul bigger than baseball." In Chicago, tributes poured in from fans who remembered not just the blazing fastballs and unforgettable saves, but the grit, vulnerability, and heart of a man who never stopped fighting. A mural is already being painted on Chicago's South Side depicting Jenks mid-wind up, arm cocked, eyes blazing forever, capturing that moment when he helped deliver baseball glory to a city that had waited nearly a century. As we say goodbye to Bobby Jenks, we remember the flame, the fight, and the fragile humanity behind the fastball. He was more than a World Series champion. He was proof that every person, no matter how broken or doubted, can rise, fall, and rise again. Rest in peace, Bobby Jenks. You'll always be our closer. On July 6, 2025, the golf world bid farewell to a quiet giant of the game. Ed Fiori, a 4-time PGA Tour winner, best remembered for his heart, resilience, and one iconic victory over Tiger Woods, passed away at the age of 72 after a courageous battle with cancer. A true underdog in a sport dominated by headlines and hype, Ed Fiori played not for fame, but for the love of the game. Born on April 21, 1953, in Linwood, California, Fiori came from humble beginnings. He wasn't the most physically gifted or conventionally built golfer far from it. Nicknamed the Grip for his unusually tight hold on the club, Ed was known for his stout figure and signature tenacity. What he lacked in traditional form, he more than made up for with heart, grit, and instinct. Fiori turned professional in the mid-1970s, joining the PGA Tour in an era of fierce competition. He clinched his first tour victory in 1979 at the Southern Open, and followed it with wins at the 1981 Bob Hope Desert Classic and the 1982 Northern Trust Open. Ed wasn't flashy, he wasn't built for billboards, but he had a swing that held up under pressure and a mental game as tough as any. Yet it was in 1996, late in his career, that Fiori etched his name into golfing history. At the Quad City Classic, the spotlight was firmly on a 20-year-old Tiger Woods. who was making a blazing run toward his first professional victory. But standing in his path was Ed Fiori. With calm resolve, Ed fended off Wood's Sunday charge, calmly sinking putts and playing with the poise of a seasoned warrior. The moment was seismic, not just because it delayed Tiger's inevitable rise, but because it highlighted the heart of a veteran who refused to back down. It would be Fiori's fourth and final PGA Tour win, but arguably his most significant. That victory reminded the sports world that in golf, experience and grit can still triumph over talent and momentum. Beyond the fairways, Ed was a humble man. A Texas resident for most of his adult life, he loved fishing, classic cars, and teaching the next generation of golfers. He wasn't a celebrity, and he never tried to be. He preferred small-town life, the quiet of a morning tea time, and the thrill of pure competition. Later in life, Fiori faced mounting health issues, including a battle with cancer that slowly took its toll. But in true Ed fashion, he faced illness the same way he faced a long par 5 head-on, with grit and grace. He remained engaged with the golfing community, mentoring, sharing stories, and reminding younger players that character was just as important as the news of Ed Fiori's passing struck a chord with fans, especially those who remember his memorable 1996 triumph. Many fellow professionals and longtime Tours followers took to social media to share their memories. One golfer wrote, "Ed may not have made headlines, but he made history. He was proof that heart wins championships too." As we remember Ed Fiori, we remember more than just a golfer. We remember a man who played his way with quiet confidence, with humility, and with unshakable spirit. In a sport that often celebrates the spectacular, Ed's story reminds us to value the consistent, the grounded, and the relentless. Rest in peace, Ed Fiori. You were a giant in quiet shoes, a reminder that heroes don't always roar. Sometimes, they win with calm, with dignity, and with heart. On July 3, 2025, the football world was stunned and heartbroken. Diogo Joda, the brilliant Portuguese forward who lit up pitches for Liverpool FC and his national team, lost his life in a devastating car accident in Spain. He was just 28 years old, a rising star, in his prime, taken far too soon. Born December 4, 1996, in Massarelos, Porto, Portugal, Jogo José Teixeira da Silva, known to millions as Diogo Jota, was destined for greatness from the very beginning. From the cobbled streets of Porto to the roaring crowds of Anfield, his journey was fueled by sheer determination, tactical brilliance, and an undeniable joy for the beautiful game. Joda began his professional career with Pecos de Ferreira, where his performances quickly caught the attention of scouts across Europe. He joined Atlético Madrid, and soon after, found his footing with Wolverhampton Wanderers. It was in England that the world began to take notice of his electric pace, precise finishing, and work ethic that mirrored legends. In 2020, Joda signed with Liverpool FC, one of the world's most storied clubs. Under Jurgen Klopp, he flourished. Whether starting or coming off the bench, Joda was always dangerous. He became known for his clutch goals, quick movement, and fearless pressing, helping the team secure key victories in the Premier League, Champions League, and domestic cups. But Joda wasn't just a club hero. He was a proud servant of his country. Wearing the Seleção das Guiné, he contributed vital goals for Portugal in international tournaments and qualifiers. With Cristiano Ronaldo aging and a new generation rising, Joda was seen as one of the pillars of Portugal's footballing future. Off the field, Joda was humble, kind, and quietly brilliant. A devoted family man, loving father, and avid gamer. He often surprised fans with how down-to-earth he remained despite the fame. He played FIFA competitively, often streaming with fans, laughing easily, and showing the same sharp instincts he had on the pitch. His sudden passing left teammates, fans, and rivals speechless. Jurgen Klopp, visibly shaken, said Diogo was a dream to coach. He gave everything. Every session, every game, every moment. We didn't just lose a player, we lost a wonderful human being. Tributes poured in from around the globe. The Portuguese Football Federation held a moment of silence. Before their next match, Liverpool unveiled a giant mural outside Anfield. Joda mid-stride, arms outstretched in celebration, eyes full of fire. At his hometown in Porto, candles lined the streets. His childhood pitch was renamed in his honor. A football academy, launched by his family, now bears his name. The Joda Institute, a place where underprivileged children will chase their dreams, just as Diogo once did. As fans, we remember the screamers into the top corner, the last-minute headers, the calm finishes, and the relentless pressing that wore down even the toughest defenders. But more than that, we remember the man, the teammate, who celebrated others' goals as fiercely as his own, who stayed after matches to sign autographs, who never let the fame harden his heart. Diogo Joda played like he lived fast, focused, full of purpose. He left us far too soon, but in those 28 years, he gave the world moments that will live on forever. Rest in peace, Diogo Joda. The stadiums are quiet now, but your name still echoes in every cheer, every chant, every child lacing their boots, dreaming of being like you. On June 27, 2025, the world of music and film bid farewell to a true maestro. Claudio Shiffron, the Argentine-American composer and jazz virtuoso whose iconic Mission Impossible theme became one of the most recognizable pieces in cinematic history, passed away at the age of 93, with a wave of his baton and a spirit that spanned continents. Shiffron fused jazz, classical, and Latin influences into scores that not only defined decades of cinema but also changed the language of film music forever. Born on June 21, 1932, in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Boris Claudio Lalo Shiffron was a prodigy from the start. His father, concertmaster of the Buenos Aires Philharmonic, introduced him to classical music at an early age, but it was jazz unconventional, syncopated, and full of soul that sparked Lalo's imagination. After studying at the Paris Conservatory, Shiffron immersed himself in the thriving European jazz scene before relocating to the United States. In the 1950s and 60s, he made his mark working with legends like Dizzy Gillespie, arranging groundbreaking big band compositions that blended jazz and Latin rhythms with daring precision. But it was in Hollywood that Shiffron became a household name with a keen sense of drama and rhythm. He began scoring for television and film, creating moods that lingered long after the credits rolled. In 1966, he penned the theme for a new spy series called Mission Impossible. That signature, 5/4 rhythm, the stabbing piano hits, and the urgent, ticking time bomb energy became instantly iconic. Decades later, it remains one of the most recognizable TV themes ever written, used, and reimagined in the Tom Cruise-led blockbuster franchise, each time a tribute to Shiffron's genius. His work extended far beyond espionage. Lalo scored over 100 films, including classics like Dirty Harry, Cool Hand Luke, Enter the Dragon, and Bullet. His style was unmistakable, sleek, bold, and rhythmically sharp. He earned 6 Grammy Awards, 4 Emmy nominations, and 6 Oscar nominations, though, in true underdog fashion, he never won an Academy Award. Yet Shiffron never seemed to chase trophies. His passion was creating soundscapes telling stories through melody, pulse, and color. From gritty crime thrillers to sweeping orchestral pieces, his music was both cinematic and deeply personal. In later years, Shiffron continued composing and conducting around the world. He collaborated with symphonies in Europe, conducted jazz festivals, and mentored young musicians who looked up to him not just as a composer, but as a visionary. His passing leaves a profound silence, but his music still plays on. Tributes poured in from across the globe. Tom Cruise released a statement. Lalo's music has been the heartbeat of Mission Impossible. We honor him every time the drums kick in. He was, and always will be, our composer of suspense. At film schools and conservatories, students studied his scores with reverence. On city streets and in quiet homes, his music continued to pulse from vinyl records, movie reruns, or streaming platforms, proof that some art never fades. Lalo Shiffron was more than a composer. He was a cultural bridge, a risk-taker, and an innovator who gave sound to mystery, swagger, and danger. Rest in rhythm. Lalo Shiffron, your themes are timeless, your genius unmistakable. Your mission was never impossible and you completed it with brilliance. On July 8, 2025, the city of Boston lost one of its most enduring sports icons and voices. Lyndon L.B. Byers, the former Boston Bruins enforcer and beloved radio host, passed away at the age of 61, known as much for his toughness on the ice as for his infectious humor behind the mic. Pound leaves behind a legacy etched in both hockey history and New England culture. Born on February 29, 1964, in Nepoin, Saskatchewan, Canada, LB was a leap year baby whose larger-than-life personality would prove timeless. A gritty, hard-hitting forward with a mean right hook and a heart of gold, he was selected 39th overall in the 1982 NHL Draft by the Boston Bruins, a franchise that would become his second home. LB joined the Bruins during an era when hockey was as much about physicality as finesse. Standing 6'0", weighing over 200 pounds, and always willing to drop the gloves, Byers made his mark as a true enforcer, a player who protected stars, sparked energy, and galvanized the crowd. In 279 games with the Bruins over 10 seasons, LB racked up over 1,000 penalty minutes, earning the love and loyalty of fans who respected his fearless approach and team-first mindset. His most memorable moments weren't just about the fights, though. There were plenty. LB could score, hit, lead, and uplift, and his locker room presence was legendary. He formed close bonds with teammates, coaches, and the people of Boston, who appreciated his blue-collar style in a blue-collar city. After stints with the San Jose Sharks and Minnesota North Stars, Pound retired from the NHL, but never left the public eye. His second act began behind a microphone where he traded punches for punchlines. As a co-host on WAAF's Hillman Morning Show, LB quickly became a staple of Boston radio, known for his loud laugh, rock and roll spirit, and stories that danced between outrageous and heartfelt. For nearly 2 decades, Pound entertained a different kind of crowd. He joked, he riffed, he told tales from the rink, and he always stayed unapologetically himself. Whether he was talking Bruins, blasting Metallic, or joking about life, Pound brought raw honesty and warmth to every segment. Fans who grew up watching him on the ice now laughed with him on their commutes, their loyalty unwavering. But beyond the celebrity and on-air antics, Pound was deeply committed to charity work, especially causes involving veterans, sick children, and the Boston community. He gave his time freely, lent his voice to fundraisers, and always showed up when someone needed him. News of his passing sent shockwaves through both the hockey world and the radio community. The Boston Bruins released a statement calling Pound a warrior on the ice and a champion in the hearts of Bruins fans. Fellow players and broadcasters took to social media, remembering him not just for his toughness, but for his unwavering loyalty and kindness. At TD Garden, fans placed flowers, jerseys, and handwritten notes near the Bobby Orr statue, a tribute to the man who once bled black and gold on that very ice. On airwaves across Boston, clips of his wildest stories and loudest laughs replayed, now with a weight they never carried before. L.B. Byers wasn't just a hockey player. He was Boston personified, tough, loud, funny, loyal, and deeply human. He reminded us that legends aren't only made through goals or ratings, but through the people they touch along the way. Rest in peace, Lyndon L.B. Byers. Whether you were throwing fists, cracking jokes, or lifting spirits, you always gave it everything. The Garden roars for you one more time. On July 3, 2025, Hollywood lost one of its most recognizable tough guys. Michael Madson, the gravel-voiced, steel-eyed actor known for his unforgettable roles in Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, and Donnie Brasco, passed away at the age of 67 in Malibu, California. His cause of death was confirmed as cardiac arrest, but the legacy he leaves behind remains immortal on screen. Born on September 25, 1957, in Chicago, Illinois, Michael Madson grew up with a love of storytelling in his blood. His mother was a filmmaker and poet. His sister, Virginia Madson, would also go on to become an acclaimed actress. Yet Michael's path was always rougher, grittier, his presence more streetwise than stage-trained. Madson began his career in theater, studying under John Malkovich at Chicago's Steppenwolf Theater, before making the leap to film in the early 1980s. He possessed something rare, a quiet volatility, a simmering charisma that could boil over at any moment. It didn't take long before directors took notice. His breakout role came in 1992, when director Quentin Tarantino cast him as Mr. Blonde in Reservoir Dogs. In a film filled with sharp dialogue and unforgettable characters, Madson's performance stood out like a gunshot in a quiet room. His now iconic scene dancing "Too Stuck in the Middle with You" while torturing a police officer shocked audiences and solidified Madson's reputation as Hollywood's go-to actor for dangerous charisma. In the 2000s, he reunited with Tarantino for the Kill Bill saga, playing Bud, the quiet and regretful brother of Bill. Once again, Madson delivered a performance that mixed menace with surprising emotional weight. He brought a weathered, wounded dignity to every role of in the most violent. He didn't just play villains, he played men broken by life, but still standing. Over his career, Madson appeared in more than 170 films, from gritty crime dramas to sci-fi westerns, indie gems, and even family films. His credits include The Hateful Eight, Donnie Brasco, Sin City, Thelma and Louise, and Wyatt Earp. Whether he was playing a hitman, a cowboy, or a conflicted father, Madson always brought authenticity. His characters felt lived in, real off. Madson was a poet, a photographer, and a father. He published multiple books of poetry, often exploring themes of regret, loss, and love. His words gave fans a glimpse into the soul behind the scowl. But his life wasn't without struggle. Madson battled addiction and personal tragedy, including the loss of his son, Hudson, in 2022, a pain that never left him. Yet through it all, he kept creating, kept performing, kept sharing himself with the world through his art. Tributes from across the film industry poured in. Quentin Tarantino called him a brother in film, adding, "Nobody could deliver a line like Michael. He was danger, he was soul, and he was 100% original." Fans worldwide took to social media, sharing their favorite scenes, quotes, and stories. Murals began to appear in cities like Los Angeles and Chicago, featuring Madson in his black suit and sunglasses. "Forever Mr. Blonde, forever cool." Michael Madson didn't chase stardom. He embodied old-school Hollywood where grit mattered more than polish, where presence mattered more than perfection. He was a man of contradictions, brutal but vulnerable, scary but soulful. As we say goodbye to Michael Madson, we don't just remember the actor, we remember the feeling he gave us. That tension, that cool, that edge. He was the guy who walked into a scene and made it dangerous and unforgettable. Rest in peace, Michael. You gave us characters who bled, and in doing so, you gave us a piece of yourself. The screen is dimmer without you, but your shadow still lingers in every corner of cinema. On June 20, 2025, the world lost a gentle, passionate soul whose life's work gave thousands a new perspective on compassion, nature, and second chances. Michaela Reigns, the 30-year-old founder of SaverFox, passed away under tragic circumstances. While the official cause remains under investigation, early reports suggest it may have been suicide. Her death has left a profound silence in the animal rescue and online communities that she helped build. Michaela was more than a YouTuber, was a rescuer, an educator, and a voice for the misunderstood. Through her videos, she opened our hearts to the world of rescued foxes, not wild predators, but vulnerable beings often discarded by fur farms, breeders, and exotic pet owners. Born in 1995, Michaela grew up in Minnesota. With a deep fascination for animals that began in childhood, she volunteered at wildlife centers, studied animal behavior, and eventually became a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. But it was a single fox, her first rescue, that changed everything. In 2017, she founded Save a Fox Rescue, a nonprofit dedicated to rescuing foxes that had no place to go. These were not wild foxes, but those bred in captivity, sold into the exotic pet trade, or born on fur farms. Many were injured, sick, or traumatized. Michaela gave them more than shelter. She gave them safety, love, and in many cases, names and personalities that her followers came to know and adore. With a simple camera and an open heart, Michaela began sharing their stories. Her YouTube channel, SaverFox, quickly grew to millions of views and hundreds of thousands of loyal fans. People tuned in, not just for the cute moments, foxes stealing socks, cuddling in blankets, or playing in the snow, but for the deeper message that every creature matters. Characters like Finnegan, Dixie, Vixie, and Michaela's own cat, Michaela, became internet stars. But at the core of it all was Michaela's unwavering belief in kindness, rescue, and rehabilitation. Her laughter, her quiet wisdom, and her bond with animals made her channel more than content. It was healing. Off camera, Michaela worked tirelessly. She battled harsh winters, legal challenges, and the emotional weight of caring for abused and neglected animals. And yet, she smiled through it all. She wrote, "Every animal deserves love, even the broken ones, especially the broken ones." In the wake of her passing, the animal rescue community has come together in mourning. Thousands have shared photos, memories, and tributes across platforms. Fans are organizing donation drives to ensure Save a Fox continues. Other sanctuaries have offered to help care for her rescues. A mural of Michaela holding Finnegan is already being painted near her rescue facility in Minnesota. The caption, "For the ones with no voice, you gave them yours." While her time was tragically short, Michaela Reigns accomplished more in 30 years than many do in a lifetime. She didn't just rescue foxes, she rescued hearts. She taught us that nature is not something to dominate, but to care for, that animals are not entertainment, but companions with emotion and worth. As we say goodbye, we hold close the moments of joy she gave us. A fox laughing, a girl smiling, a world just a little softer. Rest in peace. Michaela, you saved more than fox as you saved us, and your legacy will never be forgotten. On July 8, 2025, hip-hop lost one of its most loyal voices. Young Noble, the resilient rapper best known as a core member of the Outlawz and a close collaborator of Tupac Shakur, passed away at the age of 47. His death marks the end of a chapter in West Coast hip-hop history, a chapter that spoke of loyalty, truth, and a deep commitment to the legacy he helped build. Born Rufus Cooper III on March 21, 1978, in Rancho Cucamonga, California, Young Noble rose from the margins of America's neighborhoods to the forefront of hip-hop culture, not through glitz or mainstream shine, but through raw, unapologetic lyricism and unbreakable brotherhood. He was the last official member to join Tupac's iconic group, the Outlawz, brought in shortly before the recording of Pac's All Eyes on Me sessions in 1996. Though the world knew Tupac as the revolutionary poet and cultural icon, those within his circle knew the names and faces who held him down in both life and death. Among them, Young Noble stood tall, quietly determined, fiercely loyal. At just 18, Noble found himself recording alongside legends. He contributed to Tupac's posthumous albums like Still I Rise and Until the End of Time, his voice often carrying a low, contemplative tone, delivering messages of street wisdom, pain, and pride. While others in the industry chased fame, Noble chased truth, the kind Tupac once preached. After Pac's tragic death in 1996, Young Noble could have stepped away. But instead, he took up the torch, preserving the Outlawz' mission, stories from the streets that mainstream hip-hop too often ignored. He became the group's backbone, steady, focused, and driven by purpose. In the 2000s and 2010s, Young Noble released numerous solo projects and collaborations with fellow Outlawz members Idi Amin and the late Hussein Fatal. His albums, including Son of God, Fast Life, and The Code with Crazy Bone, were full of lyrical grit, spiritual reflection, and personal testimony. Noble's music didn't flood charts, but it commanded respect. In a culture that often glorifies betrayal and image, he embodied the exact opposite: loyalty, legacy, and depth. Off the mic, Noble was a family man, a thinker, and a quiet mentor to younger artists who admired not just his catalog, but his character. He was never the loudest in the room, but always one of the realest. His passing at 47 sent shockwaves through the hip-hop community. Tributes poured in from fans and artists alike, especially those connected to the West Coast scene. His brother-in-arms for over 2 decades, wrote, "My heart is shattered. I've lost more than a friend, I've lost my twin flame. In this life, in this music, long live young Noble." In Los Angeles, fans organized a mural near Crenshaw, depicting young Noble beside Tupac and the Outlawz, crest immortalizing the brotherhood that refused to be forgotten. As we look back, we remember young Noble as more than just a rapper. He was a historian of the streets, a soldier of Pac's mission, and a reminder that integrity outlives fame. His lyrics weren't made for radio, they were made for those who listened with their soul. Rest in peace. Young Noble, you stayed loyal. Until the end, the Outlawz banner lives on because of you. And in every verse, every beat, and every fan who refuses to forget, you live forever. Outlawz till I'm under the ground. You once rapped out, now the ground holds you, but the legacy soars. A storyteller, a symbol of reinvention. Born William Bradley Pitt on December 18, 1963, in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and raised in Springfield, Missouri, he was just a small-town boy with big city dreams. Brad didn't start out chasing Hollywood. He studied journalism at the University of Missouri, with thoughts of becoming an art director, but just 2 weeks before earning his degree, something inside told him, this isn't the end, it's just the beginning. He packed his bags and headed to Los Angeles. And like every dreamer, he worked odd jobs driving limos, dressing up as a chicken mascot until that defining moment came. A brief role in Thelma and Louise, 1991, sent shockwaves through the industry. With just a few minutes of screen time, Brad Pitt became the name on everyone's lips. But he didn't stop at being a heartthrob. He challenged himself and the industry with gritty, complex roles. From Legends of the Fall to Seven, Fight Club to 12 Monkeys, Pitt consistently tore through stereotypes. He didn't just act, he immersed, transformed, and sometimes disappeared into his characters. His work became a canvas of human emotion, painting portraits of rage, pain, humor, and redemption. Off-screen, Brad evolved. He became a producer, founding Plan B Entertainment. Under his leadership, the company backed Oscar-winning films like 12 Years a Slave, The Departed, and Moonlight. Behind the camera, Pitt supported bold, necessary storytelling stories that changed how Hollywood looked at power, race, and truth. In his personal life, Brad Pitt was both celebrated and scrutinized. His high-profile relationships with Jennifer Aniston and Angelina Jolie kept tabloids busy for decades. But through the spotlight's glare, he remained quietly resilient. He became a father, a philanthropist, and eventually, an advocate for mental health and sobriety, openly discussing his own journey through addiction and healing. Brad wasn't afraid to break himself down and rebuild. That's the mark of true greatness, not perfection, but growth. In 2020, he won his first acting Oscar for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. When he took the stage, he didn't boast, he joked, he thanked, and he reminded us all that even the biggest stars are still searching for purpose, connection, and truth. Brad Pitt's legacy isn't just in the films he's made, but in the man he's become. A risk-taker, a believer in stories, a father, a flawed, evolving, beautifully human soul. In the end, we remember Brad not just for his looks, his fame, or even his awards bet, for his impact. For reminding us that reinvention is always possible, and that being vulnerable can be the strongest thing a man ever does. Here's to the journey of Brad Pitt, still unfolding, still inspiring,